Hi, I'm Daniel with eTrailer, and today we're going to take a look at, I'm going to show you how to install the Demco Air Force One braking system on our 2024 GMC Canyon. When you're flat towing a vehicle, there's going to be 5 main components you're going to need. Now, starting here at the vehicle side, it's going to be the base plate. So that's going to be the device that connects directly to the frame of your vehicle that gives you attachment points for your tow bar. Now, your tow bar here is just going to be the in-between between that base plate and the hitch on your motorhome. Now, your next component is going to be your safety cables. And these are just going to be here in case of a catastrophic disconnect, just an extra precaution measure. Now, your next component is going to be your diode wiring. So this is going to make everything safe and legal. It's going to make your turn signals and brake lights visible while you're traveling down the highway. Now, lastly, you're going to need a braking system here. We have air brakes today, but this braking system will allow you to utilize your brakes and make your vehicle come to a stop. Some other components you're going to need for your GMC Canyon is going to be a battery disconnect, and you will need to disconnect your battery to get your vehicle into flat tow mode. Now, another thing you may need is going to be a charge line kit. So that's going to give your battery a trickle charge from your motorhome so you don't arrive to the campsite with your battery dead, and your braking system does rely on that battery, so you need that to stay charged as well. Now, our braking system here today is going to be proportional, so that means however hard you press on your motorhome's brakes, it's going to be the same pressure on the brakes on your vehicle. And there's a couple different ones we have. We have a portable system, so if you're flat towing multiple vehicles, that's good for that. But this system here is you can basically set it all up and forget about it. It's all going to work. All you have to do is connect the air line here because we have air brakes on our motorhome. And this is where we decided to put our operating unit. We just bolted it right onto the bumper beam on the front. Of course, we had to take the fascia off already to get the base plate on, and there's not a whole lot of spots to put this on this vehicle. Now, you just want to make sure that when you're mounting it, it's secure and you can get to all the fittings that you need to. And how we get proportional braking is when we push the brake pedal, it'll send air back to our vehicle through an air line to our reed switch, which is going to be our cylinder, and that's going to press down on the brake pedal. This kit does come with an indicator light, and it just goes right on your rear view mirror. So that way, when you're in your motorhome going down the highway and you're pressing on the brakes, this will light up, letting you know that the brakes are working in your towed vehicle. Now, if you have any further questions about what braking system is going to be best for your setup, then please feel free to reach out to us at eTrailer. We'd love to help you out with your setup. Now, as far as the install goes, there is a lot of components here. You're routing a lot of wiring and possibly drilling into your firewall. Now, if that's not something you want to do yourself, then you can check out our dealer locator, and we can find a professional in your area to get this done for you. But if you're looking to do it yourself, follow along and I'll walk you through it. First off, I'm going to find a spot for our breakaway switch. Now, right on our driver's side, the bolts that go right into our base plate, I'm going to actually use one of those. I already reamed out this hole just so that bolt could fit. Now I can put this bolt back through our base plate and get the nut back on, but before I do that, I'm going to put some more blue Loctite back on this. Now I can get this through, and I'll tighten and torque this back down to the specs that are in the base plate instructions. And if you need to know how to find those, then we have videos to install these as well. I got our main operating unit here, and since we don't have vacuum assist brakes, we can plug the exhaust port here. So they give you a cone-shaped rubber insert that you can just put in there. And then I'm going to use an acorn nut that comes in the kit, get this tightened on. And they give you some vacuum line tubing. I'm just going to push this on the fitting on the end. Make sure it's well seated, and then they give you a cap for this as well. So I'll just push this cap in there. And where I'm going to mount this is right on the bumper beam in the front. And this is a good spot out of the way. So I'm going to take some self-tappers and get this screwed in. Now it may help if you pre-drill so you can get a self-tapper in a little easier. My breakaway switch wires are right here. I routed them up behind the bumper and around to our unit. Now I'm going to take the black wire and I'm going to splice this in to one of our black wires on our unit. Take a heat shrink butt connector, and these don't come in your kit, but they're really good to have because prevent corrosion from the rain and elements getting in there. Now I'll snip back this wire a bit. Splice off the sheathing and get this crimped on here. Now I'll go ahead and extend both of these and route them up to our battery. Now I got our airline tubing, and I did already route this, but I'll show you where we plug it in, right at the air out spot. And you just want to firmly press that in, make sure that's not coming out. And I looped this to go to the driver's side, and it's just going up through underneath this headlight into this pocket and into our engine bay. And our orange wire that we extended and our ground that we also extended is coming up same way on this side, just underneath this light and up into the engine bay. Now the ground, I just crimped on a ring terminal and I put it on this factory ground here. Now our power wire, which is coming from our breakaway switch, is coming right to our battery. Now I'm going to hold off on connecting this because there's a couple other things we're going to connect. Going back to our driver's side with our airline tubing, I'm going to route this into our cab, and we found a large grommet right down there, and we actually drilled a hole in it already so we can fish all of our wires through. I did snip a point into the end of this just so it make it a little easier to get through our grommet. Now I'm going to reach down, push this through that hole we made. Now that we have it poked through, I can grab it inside the cab and give this a pull, take all the slack up. I did pull some of this actually back out, and I'm going to tape a red and white wire, and I'm going to feed this into the cab as well. This will be the ground wire and power wire for our indicator light and our reed switch. And now we can put our indicator light on our rear view mirror. There's just a sticking backing, and I just stuck that on, and I routed the wire under the roof liner here. Now I got it to this pillar, and I put up some airline tubing through this pillar, and I already took these panels off prior. Now I'll go ahead and tape this on our fish line and get this pulled down. Now that we got all of our wires routed in, we can mount our reed switch. Now I just took the nuts off the back here. It's going to be a 3/8 socket. I'm going to take that plate off. And the reed switch is going to be on the arm like this, and it's going to get mounted to the firewall like that. And there's going to be a plastic fastener that I'm just going to remove here. It's a flathead screwdriver. Just get the carpet out of our way. We did have a welded on threaded bolt, and I just found a nut that corresponds with that. I'm going to use that for our mounting location right there. And now I got our plate that comes in the kit, and I self-tapped that to our frame. Now I did go through with a smaller self-tapper first and poked this through just to make sure I'm not drilling into anything on the other side. Now I'll put our reed switch in place. I'm just going to get this clamped on. Now this brake arm is pretty thick, so these bolts are pretty short with the bracket. I'm going to try and get this on, but we may need to switch these out to the longer ones. Just depends on your brake arm. Just going to get this hand tight for now. And if you want this as close to the brake pedal as possible, but high enough so you won't hit it while you're driving. Now before we put the fascia back on, we want to get our remaining airline. I'm going to give this a clean cut. Make sure it's nice and square, and plug this in the air in. So once we get the fascia back on, we won't be able to get to this. Now I'll take these two wires that we ran into the cab and I'll strip these back. Our power wire and our ground wire. The wire coming from our reed switch right here that is attached to our pedal, it's going to have a blue and a brown wire. That blue wire, I'm going to crimp out a butt connector, and that's going to go to our ground. We're going to ground that somewhere in the engine bay. It's crimped on. And I'm just using the butt connectors that come in the kit. They don't have to be the heat shrink because we're inside the cab. Now, the brown wire is going to go to the black wire on our indicator light. So that is the light that we stuck on our rearview mirror, and we ran that down here. So I'll do the same thing. I'll crimp on a butt connector and get this connected to our brown wire. Now our red power wire is going to get crimped on to our red wire that's coming from our indicator light. I'll crimp this on. Now, last thing to do before we tidy up all these wires is to connect our airline. So I'm gonna cut this to length. And connect this to our reed switch. Just push it in. And make sure it's locked in. And now we can get everything cleaned up. Now coming to the engine bay, that white wire we ran in is coming right over here, and that's going to be grounded to somewhere on the frame. We just use a self-tapper for that. And that red wire is coming this way. I zip tied it, and that's traveling to our battery. And this red wire is going to our inline fuse, and it's getting a ring terminal and connected to our positive post on our battery. And once we got everything hooked up, we can put our fuses in, our fuse holder. And if you do have a charge line, now's the time to put that fuse in as well. Now that we got all of our flat tow components where we need them, we can tidy up all of our wiring and put our fascia back on the same way we took it off. Now with the fascia back on, I can show you where the air valve is, and that just mounting that on the bracket where our 7-way plug is as well. Now that's same thing, that air line back here is going to connect the same way. It's going to push in, and that's going to our air in on our main module. And our breakaway switch is mounted on the side of our base plate. I just used one of the bolts that are mounting it to our frame and widen the hole out, and here it is. So with all of our components mounted, I can now go over to the motorhome side and we can get that squared away. First off, we want to find a location to mount our air tank, and there's a couple different spots you can do this. You just want to make sure it's high up off the ground. I found a spot on the frame. I'm actually going to use this existing bolt. I already took the nut off of it, but I'm going to put it on here and probably get a self-tapper or a bolt through the frame and get this on. I reamed out our bracket just to make it a little bigger so that bolt could fit, and now I'm marking the bottom hole. Take this off, and that's where I'll drill. And I'll start with a smaller drill bit and I'll go up to a bigger one so I can get the self-tapper in here. I got a self-tapper and I opened it up just enough to get this in. And now I'm gonna put this in beforehand, make it a little easier just so the threads go in when I put the bracket on. Now we can go ahead and throw our tank assembly up here. And when you're putting this tank assembly up, you're going to want this bottom silver part to be facing down. It can be side to side, but it works the best when it's straight down. Put that nut back on, and now I will put in our bolt. Now that we mounted this, we can go back and look for the metered airline and the supply airline. So I'm right in front of the rear differential here, and this is where our lines are going to be. We are going to be cutting these lines and putting T-connectors in, So where we're gonna cut them, I'm gonna clean really well so we don't have any leaks. So I just got some brake clean here, and I'm gonna spray it and wipe it down multiple times, make sure it's completely clean. Now, first off, we want to locate our air supply line. It's usually gonna be a large green line. And you just wanna cut into this. Before you do so, you may wanna press on the brakes because that will let the air out some. But do cut into this slowly because that air might rush out. Now we just connected our T connector to either side, and we connected our small airline fitting that comes in our kit to the end. And next we want to locate our metered line, and ours is right here. It's a lower diameter line, and same thing, we're going to splice into this, put our T connector in, and put our airline that comes in our kit in here as well. Now we're going to route both of these lines back to our tank. And I'll get this zip tied so there's no kinks in it. You want a nice loop in here. I'll get this all zip tied up. Now with your remaining airline, you're gonna want to attach it to the bottom of the manifold here. So I'll get this plugged in. And we're gonna run this to the back bumper. This is gonna be the line to supply your vehicle's brakes. Now when you're ready to install your valve, I'm just gonna line it up where I want it on our rear bumper. I marked it. I'm just gonna take a drill and just drill out 2 holes. I'll take our hardware. Now they give you some hardware in the kit, and reach my hand in here, and I'll stick it down through the hole we just made. I'll just put our valve in place and get our nylock nuts on. Now I'll get these tightened down. I got a wrench on the other side just to secure the head of the bolt. Just want to snug this up. Don't want to make it too tight. We can secure our airline to our frame, and now we can cut it to length. Make sure there's no kinks gonna get in it. And we'll connect this just by pushing it in. Make sure it doesn't come out, and we're all good. Last thing to do is connect your airline umbilical to your vehicle and your motorhome, and then test out, see if your brakes are working. Just give a couple pumps and make sure your reed switch is activating. Now once you've done that, you can connect all the rest of your components and you're ready to go to the campsite. Now that just about does it for the look at the Demco Air Force One braking system on our 2024 GMC Canyon.